Hey guys, it's Joe here. Let's get sloppy with it. Got a fun one for you today here. Going to be talking about Joe Exotic, the Tiger King. Very much a different thing than what I've been talking about recently. Um, if you haven't heard of him, he's a very interesting fellow, as you can see. He's famous for running a kind of a petting zoo with tigers. He owns a lot of tigers out in Oklahoma, USA. A very colorful fellow. Um, I would say in many ways he's a hillbilly, but in many ways he's not your typical hillbilly. He's a very well, politically he's very conservative. Socially he's very liberal. He's had allegations of drug use, including meth, which seem quite believable. Um, he's a gay man, openly gay, so that stuff doesn't really fit with his conservative politics. Anyway, interesting guy. He kind of blew up around 2020 during the COVID thing. There was a huge Netflix documentary about him. He's currently in jail amid allegations of him hiring a hitman to kill Carol Baskin, who is kind of his rival. She rescues unwanted or neglected tigers, but she thinks that Joe Exotic is a bad guy. She thinks he's doing animal cruelty. There's some interesting stuff about her as well. There's allegations that she killed her husband and fed him to a tiger. I don't know how believable that is, but interesting nonetheless. Anyway, if you haven't seen the Netflix documentary, it's great. I really recommend it. And maybe if you are planning to watch it, maybe watch it before you watch the rest of this video because there's probably some spoilers ahead. Um, Before we go any further, just wanted to say that I'm sorry I haven't uploaded in a while. I was covering all the Denims Ethan Klein stuff, and honestly, there wasn't that many interesting updates for a long time, so I didn't make anything. And then there was some interesting updates, but they were covered much better than I could cover them by people much more knowledgeable than me, like Legal Mindset, for example. Check out his channel. He covers all the lawsuits going on with the YouTubers. He's a lawyer and practicing lawyer in the USA, so much more qualified to talk about this stuff than I am. So I didn't really feel like I would be adding much if I made videos about these things. But anyway, we've got some really interesting developments in the Tiger King case, so I thought it would be cool to cover them today. So just a short update to bring us back to where we are. So Joe Exotic was accused of hiring a hitman to kill Carol Baskin. She was never killed. She's still alive, so nothing really happened there, but obviously it's a very serious allegation, and he was jailed. I believe it's for that. I could be wrong on this, but that was my understanding of the situation. So since about 2020, Joe Exotic's been in jail. Maybe it was 2021, and he's had his PR team posting a lot of stuff on his YouTube channel. He's always saying, "Oh, I'm innocent, get me out of jail," that kind of thing. And I kind of thought it was all bullshit. But today he's made a post, and it seems like he's got some receipts for his innocence. I'll just scroll down, um, showing some of his previous posts. So it's all kind of just PR stuff. Joe Exotic did not hurt anyone. Joe Exotic did not pay anyone. Joe Exotic had no plans to hurt anyone. He has no prior criminal record and is not a danger to society. Free Joe Exotic, the Tiger King. Blah, blah, blah. Positivity. Here's an interesting photo of him. Innocent people do not belong in prison. Free Joe Exotic, the Tiger King. I like his bullet hole tattoos. That's pretty cool. Um, okay, he's posted something here. This is from jail. He's posted this just to let everyone know what's going on. Blah, blah, blah. Thanks for all your letters. I have to pay for postage and colored photos. She's basically asking for money. I'm in the fight of my life with this new appeal, and the lawyers are planning to go all the way to the Supreme Court because what is being done to me is very wrong, and it must be stopped before something like this happens to you. I should read it in his voice. I'm in the fight of my life with this new appeal, and the lawyers are planning to go all the way to the Supreme Court because what is being done to me is very wrong, and it must be stopped before something like this happens to you, just to prevent you from owning animals PETA doesn't want you to have. So he's saying that he's been framed for crimes because PETA doesn't want him owning tigers, basically. I am praying and hoping that President Trump will help me out and at least sign my clemency because I can live without a full pardon. I just want to go home and be able to travel. George and I send our love to all. And then he shows his shop. More stuff. He did not hurt anyone. They send his address so you can write to him. Shout out in the comments if you've written any letters to Joe Exotic. I doubt you have, but it'd be interesting to know. More pictures. I mean, I'm just showing these pictures to give you a flavor of what this guy's like. He's a very flamboyant character. R.I.P. Hulk Hogan. He looks a bit like Hulk Hogan, I guess, in his hairstyle and his mustache. Oh, he went on the Alex Stein show. That's crazy. That's cool. Shout out to Alex Stein. He does great content. You should give him a follow. Okay, and then he's talking more about the legal stuff. But let's fast forward back to yesterday. This was so currently the 23rd of August. So this was on the 22nd of August. Officially heard from the White House today. Everything is being investigated in my case. Blah blah blah. And then he's posted receipts, and we're going to look at all of these. So there's 3 affidavits. If you don't know what an affidavit is, it's basically a sworn statement from a witness, and they do have some evidentiary value in court. Just checking the audio is recording here. Yeah. So an affidavit is basically where somebody says, I'm going to tell you what I know and I'm going to swear it's true. And then these signed affidavits or affidavits, depending on your pronunciation, they can be submitted as evidence in court. And one affidavit on its own is not, doesn't have a great deal of evidentiary value, but 2 or 3 affidavits saying the same thing do start to have more evidentiary value and become more persuasive to the court. He's also posted 3 other things: Lowe's abusing child, Garrettson identity credit scam, and FBI misconduct. So we're going to look at all of these. I guess I'll look at the FBI misconduct one first, but I just wanted to say a side note here. So the affidavits are posted on floridajustice.com. So I decided to look into that website and see if it's legit. Um, I thought maybe it's like part of the Justice Department of the USA, but I don't think it actually is. So Florida Justice, if you go to their website, it's basically just a lawyer's website. So I presume these are Joe Exotic's legal team. I don't know if these are the actual guys. It looks like they are because there's these signatures: Matthew Hunt, John M. Phillips. So let's have a look at their website quickly. See, I mean, it looks like a legitimate lawyer website, but it's obviously trying to get clients in, offering you free consultations, etc. So apparently they got $500 million. Wait a second, that's more than $500 million, 450 plus million gun violence, wrongful death case. That almost seems unbelievable, that amount. They got over $2 million apparently for a sunbather run over by a lifeguard truck. It seems like they're posting receipts for all these things. I obviously don't have the time to look into this, but yeah, in short, it looks like a legit lawyer's website, but just bear in mind here that these lawyers are presumably hired by Joe Exotic, or they've taken his case pro bono with a no win, no fee kind of arrangement. And these guys are obviously going to want Joe Exotic to win. Sorry, I'm going to have a sip of water here. My mouth gets kind of dry reading all these documents. Okay, so let's check the FBI misconduct. Oh, this is on the Joe Exotic website, so I don't know how much to trust this. So I'm just skim reading over this now. Executive. Oh, why is this a Shopify link? Veracity, intelligence, investigation, research. Man, this is some heavy stuff. So he does have receipts kind of for all this stuff, but look, the watermark is Joe Exotic official. So it doesn't seem like the FBI are admitting misconduct. This is more like people who Joe Exotic is paying to point out the FBI misconduct. So I don't know how much I can trust this stuff. Let's skim read over it. So they're saying there was inappropriate relationships with confidential human sources and potential OPR violations. Jeff Johnson potentially disclosing Johnson's identity as a federal source. I don't actually know who Jeff Johnson is, so Jeff Lowe, I do know who he is. So Jeff Lowe, if you've seen Tiger King, you know who he is. He was the Tiger Park was kind of having financial issues, and Jeff Lowe was kind of a rich guy who said he would either buy the park or sort of pay to keep it running, but he ended up being a bit of a crook and kind of taking over the park and turning it into something that Joe Exotic didn't want it to be. But I don't think he had a choice really, because he was running out of money and all the tigers were presumably going to die. Okay, so this is a lot of information that I'm not particularly interested in. I would be a lot more interested in it if this was not on Joe Exotic's website, because obviously he's biased and this is all just information that's been produced by people he's hired. Obviously, if you want to appeal a legal verdict, you want to point out misconduct on behalf of the police or the FBI or the judiciary system to be able to make your case stronger. So let's go to the affidavits here. This is the affidavit of Alan Frank Glover. I believe this guy was featured in the documentary Tiger King. I'm not 100% sure. I'm just going to take another sip here. Okay. So legal spiel. They're saying it's Alan Glover. So he's been duly sworn and deposed, which basically means he's sworn to tell the truth, and he's been formally deposed, which means he knows he's being interviewed for legal purposes. He says he's over the age of 18. He's an old guy, if I remember correctly. And he's basically saying he'll tell the truth. He lives in South Carolina. He says, I committed perjury during my grand jury testimony regarding my involvement as the hitman in the murder for hire. Okay, so Alan Glover was the guy who was allegedly paid to kill Carol Baskin. So perjury, if you don't know, just means lying in court, basically lying when you've sworn to tell the truth. I committed perjury during my trial testimony regarding my involvement as the hitman. Following Joseph Maldonado Passage's trial, by the way, this is Tiger King's real name, but he goes by Joe Exotic online. So anytime you see Joseph Maldonado, that's Tiger King. or Joe Exotic. So during Tiger King's trial, I reported to the Department of Justice that I didn't tell the truth at trial and information regarding Jeff Lowe and sex trafficking. The person I spoke with never returned my call, so he's saying here he tried to admit to lying before, but he wasn't called back. Jeff Lowe wanted full ownership of the park and wanted Joe Exotic's off the park by any means necessary. Before Joe Exotic was being investigated by the federal government, Jeff Lowe asked me to kill Joe Exotic. Wow. He told me I would never have to work again if I killed Joe Exotic. So basically, this guy who was some associate of Jeff Lowe and I believe Joe Exotic, he's a old guy. Let's see if we can find a picture of him here. What's his name? Alan Glover. Yeah, this is him. I remember him now. So he was kind of like an odd job guy for Jeff Lowe, I believe, but he had a kind of a shady history. And this is the guy that they're all saying. So the story was Joe Exotic paid this guy to kill Carol Baskin, who's his rival. Here's Carol Baskin, in case you forget. She's a very like tree huggy lady. She's rescuing all these tigers. She supports animal rights, everything like that. So this guy, Alan Glover, was allegedly paid by Joe Exotic to kill her, but he's saying that this never happened. And now Alan Glover, whose affidavit we're reading, is saying that he actually lied in court because presumably Jeff Lowe told him to get rid of Joe Exotic, and that he's also alleging that Jeff Lowe basically told him he was going to pay him to kill Joe Exotic. That's crazy. I haven't read all of this stuff before. I'm just reading it for the first time on stream, so kind of muddling through it. Okay, he's got more to say here. Before Joe Exotic was being investigated by the federal government, Jeff Lowe told me that he wanted Carol Baskin dead. Wow, so maybe it was him all along, and discussed ways to do it so that he would get full ownership of the park. Jeff Lowe agreed to have Joe Exotic killed. Just gonna have a sip here. Sorry guys, my mouth gets really dry reading these things. Okay, Jeff Lowe agreed to have Joe Exotic killed. The plan was to tie a wire between two poles on a path that was frequently traveled by Joe Exotic as he drove from his house, so that the wire would decapitate him. So he's probably driving around on a motorbike or a quad bike here. I took Jeff Lowe to the area and showed him where the wire would be set up. Jeff Lowe had many plans to kill Joe Exotic. He told me that he was either going to put him behind bars for committing fraud. Jeff approached Joe Exotic about the alleged fraud and recorded it. The conversation was faked in an effort to put Joe in jail. When this failed, he worked with United States Fish and Wildlife agent Matthew Bryant to create, direct, and coerce the murder for hire plot. Wow. So this is presumably quite a high up official in the United States Fish and Wildlife Government Agency. That's crazy. Joe Exotic always joked about wishing Carol Baskin death because of the financial stress she caused him. That's obviously true. He doesn't have many nice things to say about her in the Tiger King documentary. No one ever took him seriously. If I offered to do it myself, as Jeff Lowe suggested, I would have an opportunity to get off the park. Jeff Lowe approached me with the idea that Joe Exotic was looking for someone to kill Carol Baskin. Jeff Lowe wanted Carol Baskin dead and asked me to talk to Joe Exotic and ask him if he wanted her dead and offer myself as a hitman. Jeff Lowe told me that if I got in trouble for the hit of Carol Baskin, that he would make sure I'd be the richest man in prison. I testified at trial that I was going to kill Carol Baskin by cutting her head off. This was the same method that Jeff and I discussed when planning how to kill Joe Exotic. Jeff Lowe created the entire murder for hire plot from start to finish. I never intended to kill Carol Baskin. I was never going to kill Carol Baskin. I never engaged in an overt act to kill Carol Baskin. Just gonna take another sip here. Okay. Around October 2017, I wanted to leave Greater Wynwood Exotic Animal Park, that's Joe Exotic's Tiger Park obviously, and return home to South Carolina because I was not getting along with Joe Exotic. On November 25, 2017, I returned to South Carolina to spend time with family, work for Jeff Lowe, and reinstate my driver's license. I left the park on my own for personal reasons. I stole $3,000 from Joe Exotic and left to go home to South Carolina. I testified at trial that this $3,000 came from the Cub sale on November 2017. This is not accurate as I have no knowledge of park finances and I don't know where the $3,000 came from that I stole. I would have traveled to South Carolina regardless of stealing the $3,000. I purchased my airline ticket to South Carolina with my own money. I asked a woman working at the office in the park to use the computer and purchase the ticket for me. I did not purchase the ticket so I could travel to Florida and kill Carol Baskin, but rather because I wanted to go back home to South Carolina. My plan to leave the park was no secret. I traveled to Florida for a couple of days, but I didn't travel there to warn Carol Baskin of the murder plot or to stalk her or kill her. I made the short trip to Florida to party completely unrelated to Carol Baskin. February 26, 2018, my roommate in South Carolina helped me draft text messages to send to Jeff Lowe regarding expenses from my Florida trip. These expenses were made up so that I didn't have to pay back the $3,000. I never sent this information to Joe Exotic, nor did he ask about it. Joe Exotic did not give me the phone assigned to the pizzeria. Blah, blah, blah. I don't know what this is about. This is just more details, I guess, that he lied about before. I testified that Joe took my phone and mailed it to Vegas. However, Jeff Lowe instructed me to give my phone to Joe Exotic and ask him to mail it to Jeff's Las Vegas address. James Garrettson set up the fake ID plan. I never used fake ID. Okay, this is more of the same stuff. I returned to Oklahoma. Jeff Lowe began telling me what to say, how to say it, and what to do in order to have Joe Exotic indicted for murder. He told me I needed to be on the government side and not Joe's side. Jeff Lowe rehearsed the story with me multiple times. Sorry guys, getting a dry throat here. Okay, Jeff Lowe coached me what to say. He told me to keep his name out of it. During my conversations with Jeff Lowe in 2018, June, I was trying to say, so I guess this all happened around 2018. The Tiger King documentary didn't come out till I think 2020. So I guess it took a while to edit all the footage and everything. So this is quite old stuff. So I guess Joe Exotic was probably been in jail since around 2019. Okay, so basically this last part is he's just saying how Jeff Lowe coached him. The phone calls with Jeff Lowe were set up and staged. He lied to me about recording these calls. The statements I made were not true. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm going to skim over some of this stuff because it's all kind of just, okay, this is a new person. So Amanda Maxfield Green, Matthew Bryant, he's the agent from the US Fish and Wildlife Agency, and her supervisor, who was a short male, prepared me for trial testimony. They told me during trial prep that if I did what they asked, then no charges would be brought against me now or in future. He really sounds like he was railroaded into this by Matthew Bryant. Jeff Lowe and Matthew Bryant repeatedly told me not to text message to avoid putting things in writing. This is just more stuff about them coaching his testimony. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. In February 2017, I had a sexual relationship with Ashley Webster while she was living and working at Joe Exotic's Animal Park. I did not disclose my relationship with this witness at any time to the government. Okay, so that's maybe just a procedural thing, like you're supposed to disclose all your relationships. James Garrettson would offer me prostitutes, but I subsequently learned that federal agents were texting me pretending to be prostitutes. Man, this is wild. I have personal information about James Garrettson, Jeff Lowe, and/or Lauren Lowe involving sex trafficking and credit card fraud. He has more information on fraud. Joe Exotic's trial attorneys never requested my deposition. I never spoke with them at all. I voluntarily provided all of my cell phones to Phillips and Hunt. That's Joe Exotic's legal team. I was not provided anything in exchange for this affidavit. So I wonder why he's coming out with this stuff. Maybe he's fallen out with Jeff Lowe. And he's signed this, and it looks like a legit legal document. I mean, this could all be made up, but it's on a real, what looks like to be a real lawyer's website. He's initialed all these pages. He's signed here. So, I mean, I don't see why a law firm would invent this information. This has got to be real. And this is crazy stuff, man. So, Joe Exotic's been completely, I mean, if this is true, Joe Exotic's been completely fraudulently jailed. He's going to have a lot of money coming his way because he's been in jail for a long time. And I hope his appeal gets through. If this stuff is true, I hope that his appeal works and that he gets out of jail. Man, crazy stuff. This is like stuff from like a James Bond movie or something, like federal agents pretending to be prostitutes. It sounds like, I don't know, like at least some government agencies were involved in this, wanting to put away Joe Exotic. I mean, it almost sounds too crazy to be true. Absolutely wild stuff. And that was definitely worth reading. I hope you guys enjoyed that because I did. I mean, I'm going to read some more now, so who knows what's next. This might be the most tame of the affidavits. I really wonder now what Jeff Lowe has to say about all this. I'm going to take another sip. Sorry, guys. My mouth gets dry reading these long documents. That was 7 pages. So let's do the Jeff Lowe affidavit next. So here's all the legal spiel saying it is Jeff Lowe. He currently lives in Oklahoma. Okay. So he says a conversation never took place with Ashley Webster about hiring a hitman to kill Carol Baskin. I did not engage in this conversation. I did not get involved in this plot. Ashley had a sexual relationship with the alleged hitman Alan Glover. James Garretson was working as an undercover informant with the FBI and the United States Fish and Wildlife Agency. Man, this is crazy. So Jeff Lowe became aware of him being an undercover informant in 2017. I agreed that if Alan Glover was a problem at the park, we could send him packing back to South Carolina. Alan Glover did not tell me he left the park to take out Baskin. The FBI report is inaccurate. This conversation did not happen. A conversation in 2018 between myself and Alan Glover regarding the murder for hire of Carol Baskin includes text messages that were created by me and staged. These were created in an effort to help refacilitate charges on the murder. So presumably he's saying we were framing Joe Exotic here. I knew I was being recorded in the May 2018 conversation with James Garretson. This guy is presumably the FBI informant. Blah, blah, blah. Alan Glover never went to Florida. I never witnessed any money exchanging hands between Joe Exotic and Alan Glover. Okay, so he is kind of defending Joe Exotic here. I wonder what's prompted him to admit all this stuff. He must have some other charges against him, and they've said something like, if you admit to this stuff, we'll go lighter on the other charges. Some kind of plea deal kind of situation. And then he's just saying we needed proof in order to convict Joe Exotic. Matthew Bryant told me what to do. Agent Bryant orchestrated the questions I should ask on subsequent phone calls. This included Alan falsely admitting to his involvement. I did this at the direction of Agent Bryant. Wow, this Agent Bryant's been up to some serious shit. Hopefully he gets held accountable for this if this is true. Okay, blah, blah, blah. At the direction of Agent Bryant, I began recording telephone calls with Joe Exotic. When my conversations with Joe Exotic failed to provide the information Agent Bryant needed to prove the murder for hire plan, he instructed me to get the admissions from Alan Glover. Wow. Agent Bryant helped circumvent the USDA requirement for vet of record after Dr. Green left. I don't know what that means. Oh, sorry guys. I was the one, blah, blah, blah. Matthew Bryant continuously directed me to try different ways of getting the information he needed from Joe Exotic to support the elements of the murder for hire. I was the one who provided the picture to Alan Glover and identified Robert Engesser to him as the individual who I suspected made the cub purchase, blah, blah, blah. I don't care about the cub purchase. I helped coordinate and was present for blah, blah, blah. While I was working for Agent Bryant, he continuously asked me to call him and not text because he didn't want stuff to be in writing, presumably. Blah, blah, blah. While working with Agent Bryant, he was constantly on a mission to collect souvenirs from the park, to collect souvenirs for his boss, Amanda Green. And Agent Bryant took political signs, political condoms, and a sign that says jail Carol Baskin. I wonder if this was for evidence or they just wanted some souvenirs, like to be like, ah ha ha, we locked up this guy falsely and now we have all these souvenirs from his part. That's kind of sick, man. I don't see how political condoms could be have any like evidentiary value. It seems like they just wanted like souvenirs of this guy that they're framing for murder. Agent Brian asked me to let him see the inside of Joe Exotic's boarded up house. He told me as the property owner it was legal for me to break into Joe Exotic's house. I gained entry and Agent Bryant went through the house looking for additional memorabilia. Man, this is crazy. He took a bunch of records and binders containing passwords and blank records, birth records, and a shotgun from the park. Wow. I mean, binders containing passwords is obviously potential evidence or potentially unlocks evidence, but I don't see how they can legally take that stuff when he hasn't been convicted of a crime yet or even charged. Okay, Agent Bryant was on the premises in 2018. He took a banker box filled with credit card and bank statements, put it in his silver pickup truck without explanation. Man, this seems so shady. Agent Bryant disclosed details of the case to me, including Joe Exotic's plea deal, the witnesses that were testifying, what they were going to say, and described the state's case. The conversation where he disclosed Joe Exotic's plea deal was not previously disclosed, and was turned over to Joe Exotic's attorneys. After an interview with a witness, he would call us and tell us everything the witness said. Man, that's crazy. This is all like such misconduct, if true. Okay, the US FWA, that's the Wildlife Agency, asked me to sign a search and consent release to dig up allegedly euthanized tigers. Agent Bryant said, you know, if I were a person who had connections with a TV station, I might call that person and see if they have a helicopter available, but I'd never said that. While they were digging up the tigers, Bryant stated, I only want to take heads. If they show what I think they'll show, a gunshot to the head has shock value, and it is a much more effective statement to a jury. If we have to autopsy these bodies, it makes it much more confusing to the jury because Joe will argue that they had illnesses. A jury is not sophisticated enough to understand autopsy reports, but everybody knows what a gunshot to the head means. So this is in relation to one of the allegations against Joe Exotic was that he was inhumanely euthanizing the tigers. You're obviously supposed to put them to sleep with like painless drugs, but he was allegedly just shooting them in the head and burying them. So I guess part of this investigation was digging up the dead tigers, trying to find how they were euthanized. I'm just going to take a sip here. Okay, while discussion, man, this is crazy stuff. Like, I did not expect this to be such firecrackers. This Agent Bryant guy sounds like a real scumbag. If this is true, I mean, let's face it, we're taking the affidavits of people who've already perjured themselves in court, so they've already lied to court. Um, so you could take that two ways. You could take it with the way of like, this guy's not trustworthy, or maybe the fact that they're admitting to perjury in some ways maybe gives their stories more credence because they're admitting to committing a crime basically in the past to sort of get the truth out. But to me, this stuff sounds legit and they've signed it. I mean, this stuff's all going to go through the court system in Joe Exotic's appeal. Let's carry on anyway. So Agent Brian told Agent Bryant told me that the murder charges were stacked on top of the murder for hire charges, so we get some jurors' heartstrings bleeding on shooting those cats and showing pictures of the tiger dig and all of that, and they might be prejudicial where we are weak on the murder for hire. So basically, he's admitting that the murder for hire part of the case is weak, and he's sort of adding this stuff about inhumanely um, euthanized tigers to sort of manipulate the jury into siding with him. Blah, blah, blah. He also stated that he was afraid that Carol Baskin's unlikable personality would make it difficult for jurors to convict on circumstantial evidence, but killing majestic tigers would demonize him to most jurors. He also stated this to me again after the trial. That's crazy. That's just a bit of salacious gossip there. Okay, February 13th, 2019, during a recorded call with Agent Bryant while discussing the case, Agent Bryant discussed holes in the case. When asked what the holes were, he stated Glover. He was the only witness to the money exchanging hands. He also said he wanted to see Joe Exotic's phone to see who in the F, presumably it was, that showed up that day that got the Liger. This was another element of the case. Joe Exotic was supposedly illegally selling tiger cubs to wealthy people. Blah, blah, blah. That's just about the selling of the cubs. Matt Bryant would contact us by telephone every night to tell us about the testimony that occurred at trial each day. This is extreme malpractice, misconduct, if true. He would also ask for clarification on some of the witnesses' testimony. He asked if we had any additional information to provide him that the prosecutor could ask. Agent Bryant confirmed to me that the captive bred and captive held wildlife were not typically protected by the Endangered Species Act, but he was confident that Joe Exotic's court-appointed attorney would have no clue of this zoo animal exemption. Okay, so basically the cats in question were not actually endangered species, but he just thought that the other side wouldn't know that was the case. Blah, blah, blah. James Garretson revealed to me several times that Bryant had instructed him to record his calls with me, but James told me he wasn't going to record me. Blah, blah, blah. It's just more like shady, misconducty stuff. Alan Glover had a DUI case. Agent Bryant handled that. Agent Bryant would always tell me I had to keep Alan Glover out of the spotlight. Amanda Green told me during my trial preparation that she cannot stand the sight of Joe Exotic, so this is one of the people involved in the government agencies. This is all good information for sort of suggesting bias in the court case, by the way. Agent Bryant told me that Amanda Green has been obsessed with taking Joe down to the point of having a photo of him in her office with a bullseye centered on his head. Joe Exotic's attorneys did not try to take my position or speak to me before the trial. Okay, that's it from Jeff Lowe. Wow, this is crazy stuff, man. Like, as I say, if like, I don't know, 30% of this is true, this is crazy stuff, man. Like, if all this is true, I mean, if even half of this is true, there's been a serious miscarriage of justice here, and Joe Exotic needs to be out of jail, and he needs a big sum of money from the FBI and the Wildlife Agency over this. This is crazy. I did not expect this stuff. So that's the Jeff Lowe deposition. Bear in mind, This is a guy who tried to basically steal Joe Exotic's Tiger Park. He doesn't like Joe Exotic. They've had many public arguments. Um, Allegedly, Jeff Lowe even tried to have him killed by Alan Glover. So, really wild stuff here. So now we have the James Garretson affidavit. This guy is allegedly the FBI informant. So let's go into this. This is all just the procedural stuff. He is James Garretson. He lives in Oklahoma. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. 2017, I agreed to serve as a cooperating private individual for the US DIFWS. That's the Wildlife Agency. And under the direction of Matthew Bryant and Andrew Faribault in a criminal case against Joe Exotic. Just going to take a sip here, guys. Sorry. Yeah, it really does dry my throat out reading all this stuff. Running out of water, actually. Anyway, so he's serving as an FBI and not an FBI informant, and a US DIFWS informant, and he's being directed by Matthew Bryant and Andrew Faribault. I began recording my interactions with Joe Exotic under the direction of the agents. I recorded calls about cub sales, document forgery, and an alleged murder for hire plan involving Alan Glover as the hitman. I was provided protection from the government in return for signing up as a confidential informant. I did not call Carol Baskin to warn her about the murder. I called her about selling the park. I was never present when Joe Exotic and Alan Glover discussed the murder for hire plot. Um, I believe this is the guy who said he saw money changing hands. I could be wrong on that, but I believe that's the case. I was constantly instructed by the government on what questions to ask and not to use certain words, us or we, because it can't be my idea. It has to be Joe Exotic's idea. So this was a huge sort of plot to frame Joe Exotic. It's crazy stuff. Matt Bryant asked me for a picture of Robert Engesser. I think this is one of the guys who was buying Cubs. Yeah, Engesser as the individual who was involved in the Cub purchase. Alan Glover did not know who he was. When it became clear to Bryant that the information regarding an alleged murder for hire plan involving Alan Glover would not materialize, it was Matt Bryant and Andrew Faribault who insisted and directed me to produce the undercover agent to Joe Exotic. They asked me to do the initial introduction and stay out of the conversation. I introduced the undercover agent Joe Exotic at the direction of Matthew Bryant for the purpose of creating a crime, as all of the information previously gathered concerning any murder plan was inaccurate. In 2017, I introduced the undercover agent. I recorded the meeting. Joe Exotic never acted on any of the details of the murder for hire plan discussed in that meeting. In 2018, Matt Bryant interviewed Jeff Lowe. I was present for the interview. I was present when Bryant told Jeff Lowe exactly what he needed to do to secure a murder for hire charge against Joe Exotic. This interview took place after the undercover agent failed in his attempt to create a murder for hire plan with Joe Exotic. This is consistent with my individual communications with Bryant as well. Throughout my service as a informant, Bryant constantly directed me on what to do and say. He wanted me to go in there and do certain things and to meet their element. He told me we've got to get cash, we've got to get money. Money has to change hands. I was present for the conversations where Jeff Lowe used threats to coerce Alan Glover into testifying in a way that matched Bryant's theory of the alleged crime. Blah, blah, blah. I did not turn over the entire text history of messages between myself and Joe Exotic and Jeff Lowe. I've provided this information to Joe Exotic's counsel. This is information previously undisclosed to the government. Matt Bryant disclosed to me that he spoke with witnesses leading up to and immediately before trial. I talked to Howard Baskin via text messages, and he thanked me for getting these people off the streets and promised they would help provide protection from the USDA. I've not received anything exchanged for this statement. Okay, so that's the shortest and the least juicy of the affidavits, and that's all 3 affidavits. So crazy stuff. We basically have 3 people saying that this was kind of like a collaboration between Jeff Lowe and the US government or various government agencies to frame Joe Exotic for murder. This is crazy stuff, man. FBI misconduct. So I'm not going to go into this stuff. It's probably been quite a long video already, but this is basically just the sort of legal jargon of all the things that they did, which not professional, and you can get Joe Exotic bed sheets. That's crazy. I might have to get some of those if he gets free. Yeah, and Exotic 2028. All right, I'm getting distracted here, but yeah, this stuff is just pretty dry stuff. It's like the details of how everything they did is unprofessional misconduct. Let's look at the last couple of things that he said. This is a video of supposedly.
My daddy's John.
Your daddy's John Finley?
Yeah.
Does he like black guys?
Yeah.
Does he like them doing it up the butt?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought
Like
so.
bubble gum.
Right up the butt.
He
right?
likes it right up the butt?
My bubble gum.
Yeah, black dick up the butt, right?
Yeah, my bubble gum.
Is your dad?
Okay, I'm not going to listen to any more of that, but obviously it's Jeff Lowe sort of baiting the child into saying inappropriate things, which is not very nice, but it's not relevant to the case at all. It just shows that he's not a great guy, which we already knew. Okay, and then we have the final document here. This is about James Garrettson being involved in fraud or something. I'm not going to get into all this. Maybe I'll do a future video about this if it's interesting, but yeah, these guys are obviously not good guys. I'm glad they've come out with this. Hopefully this is the truth that they've come out with. And yeah, if this stuff is true, it all looks legit. It seems like Joe Exotic could be getting out of jail. We could be getting justice for Joe Exotic. So yeah, interesting topic to me because it kind of combines the 2 main things I'm interested in, which is sort of drama with YouTubers and legal cases. I hope you found that interesting, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments. And yeah, have a great day. Like and subscribe if you wish to. See you later.